I woke up in the ICU, unable to move, a tube down my throat, my eyes sealed shut, yet I could hear every word. I heard the beeping machines, the quiet footsteps, and my husband calmly asking the doctor how fast they could let me go. I lay there, trapped in my own body, as he talked about my low chances, my life insurance, and the house we'd bought together like they were prizes he'd already won. In that moment, I realized something far more terrifying than the crash that almost killed me. The man I loved had already decided I was dead and was planning his future without me. My name is Emma Carter. I am 34 years old. I heard my husband ask how quickly they could let me go while I was trapped inside my own body, listening. I couldn't move. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't even twitch a finger to let anyone know I was in there. But I could hear every word, every breath, every lie. Monitors beeped around me in that slow, steady ICU rhythm I knew so well. I've spent 10 years as an ICU nurse in a hospital just outside Dallas. I'm used to being the one holding hands and explaining procedures, not the one lying flat on her back with tubes in her throat. They told me later I'd been hit by a drunk driver after a night shift. Green light, intersection, then nothing. Multiple fractures, a bruised lung, head trauma. The kind of injuries where family meetings usually come with words like critical and we'll see. In that fog, I heard my husband's voice, Daniel, calm, way too calm. So just be straight with me, doctor, he said. I could tell he was standing at the foot of my bed. What are we really looking at here? Her chances? I heard my doctor, Patel, shift closer. She's in critical condition. The next 48 hours are important. She's young and she's strong. I've seen patients pull through from worse, but we can't make promises. Silence. Then Daniel let out a sigh that sounded almost annoyed. It was the same sound he made when the Wi-Fi cut out in the middle of a game. Right, he said slowly. But if she doesn't, make it. She always said she didn't want to be kept on machines. I don't want her suffering. I don't want this dragged out. My heart pounded against the ventilator. That was a lie. We'd had that conversation. I knew exactly what I'd said. If there's a chance, fight for me. I'd even filled out the forms at work. Advance directive, healthcare proxy, my sister, Lily. I didn't put Daniel down because he hates hospitals. He once passed out watching a blood draw. He joked that I dealt with all that gross stuff, so he didn't have to. Dr. Patel cleared his throat. We have her advance directive on file. She appointed her sister, Lily Harper, as her medical decision-maker. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel the air change. Daniel hated not being in control. He always had. Oh, he said, a little too quickly. Right, yeah, I forgot she did that. I don't want her hooked up forever if there's no real hope, you know? We are not at that point, Dr. Patel said firmly. We're giving her every chance. Then Daniel's phone buzzed. That familiar, cheery vibration. I heard him step a little away from the bed, but not out of earshot. Hey, he whispered, voice softer in a way I'd never heard him use with me. Yeah, I'm at the hospital. A woman's voice replied through the speaker, muffled but clearly there. I couldn't make out the words, but I heard the tone, intimate, familiar. I lay there, paralyzed, as my husband said, "They don't think she's going to make it. The doctor basically told me it's just a matter of time." That was another lie. He chuckled quietly. No, don't say that. It's not bad luck. Maybe this is how it was supposed to happen. How it was supposed to happen. If I'd been able to rip the tube out of my throat and sit up, I would have. Instead, I lay there, my mind screaming while my body stayed still. Yeah, he went on, his voice dropping even lower. The insurance is all in place. The house, too. Once this is over, we'll be okay. Better than okay. My blood ran cold. He lowered his voice further. No, nobody knows about us. I've been careful. Insurance, the house. Nobody knows about us. In that moment, everything inside me shifted. I was no longer just fighting to survive. I was filing away every word for later. If I got out of that bed, I wasn't just going to live. I was going to burn down the version of me he was already selling to the world. The next days, or weeks, I don't even know, blurred into half-dreams. I'd drift in and out, voices floating in and out of the fog. Sometimes I heard nurses I recognized from work, talking to me like I was awake. ICU nurses do that. We talk to our patients as if they can hear us, even when they're heavily sedated. "Morning, Emma," one would say. "Your blood pressure looks good today. Lily's coming later." Sometimes I heard Lily crying softly, holding my hand, whispering, "You promised you wouldn't leave me alone in this world, Em. You don't get to break that promise." But I never heard Daniel cry. I heard his shoes. I heard him answer calls. I heard that quiet, controlled tone he used whenever he was negotiating or lying. One night, through the beeps and hums, I heard another conversation with a nurse. "How is she?" Daniel asked. "Stable," a nurse replied. "That's a good sign." He took a breath. "I need to ask you something about her wishes." "We have her directive," the nurse said. "Her sister is listed as the decision maker." "Right, but..." He dropped his voice. "Is there any way to change that? Lily's a mess. I'm her husband. It should be me. If things go downhill, I don't want drama. I swear, if I could have moved, I would have ripped my own IV out." "I can't change legal documents," the nurse said, her tone firm. "And even if I could, I wouldn't. It's not up to us." He let out that little annoyed exhale again. "I'm just saying, if this is going to drag out, I don't think Emma would want that. If it gets bad, I want us to, let her go." The nurse leaned close enough that her voice came clear in my fog. "Emma," she said gently, "we're still fighting for you. We're not giving up." That nurse, Jenna, I'd later find from her badge, became one of the reasons I got my revenge, but I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that the man I married had already moved on to the letting me go part while my heart was still beating. When I finally woke up, it was like swimming up through heavy, dark water. My eyelids were sandpaper. My throat felt like it had been scraped raw. "Emma?" A voice. Close. "Emma, if you can hear me, blink." I forced my eyes open. The lights were too bright. The world was blurry. A face swam into view, Dr. Patel. Another, Lily, her eyes swollen, mascara streaked, hair pulled into a messy bun. "Em?" Lily choked out. Are you in there?" I tried to speak, but what came out was a croak. They suctioned my mouth, shifted tubes, and finally, after what felt like forever, they took the ventilator out. Every second of it hurt, but it was worth it just to be able to use my own voice again, no matter how weak. "Lily," I whispered. My voice was barely air. She made this broken sound and grabbed my hand. "I'm here. Oh my God, you're here." I scanned the room with my eyes. "Where's Daniel?" Her shoulders stiffened. It was subtle, but I know my sister. "He was just here this morning," she said. "He'll be back." She wouldn't meet my eyes. That was my first solid, conscious red flag. He came later that day, walking in like a man stepping onto a stage. He had flowers. He'd never brought me flowers in a hospital once in the 10 years I'd worked there. Not when I worked double shifts. Not when I had the flu and was stuck in observation overnight. But he brought them now, when people were watching. "Em," he breathed, rushing to my bedside. "You scared me to death." He bent and kissed my forehead. My skin crawled. "You've been here?" I rasped. "Every day," he said. "I barely left. I slept in that awful chair." I remembered hearing about him asking how quickly they could let me go. Hearing him on the phone with another woman. Hearing his careful tone with the insurance talk. But I smiled weakly and said, "Thank you." Because I knew instinctively that if I showed my cards now, I'd lose. He'd gaslight, twist, spin it as trauma and confusion. I needed to be the grateful wife, for a little while longer. Over the next week, they moved me from ICU to a step-down unit, then to a rehab hospital in the city. I learned to sit up without passing out, learned to stand, then shuffle along with a walker. Every movement hurt, the bruises around my ribs, the surgical scars, the constant headache. It all felt like I'd been in a bar fight with a truck and lost. What hurt more, though, was what I started to see when I paid attention. "Where's my phone?" I asked Lily one afternoon at rehab. She hesitated. Daniel has it. He said he was handling everything so you wouldn't stress. Can you get it? I asked. She nodded slowly. Yeah, I'll ask him. When she left the room, Nurse Jenna stepped closer. Same calm, kind woman from ICU. How are you doing, Emma? She asked, like she really wanted to know. Tired, I admitted. Sore. Then I lowered my voice. Can I ask you something? Sure. I heard things, I said carefully. When I was out, I couldn't move, but I could hear, I think. Did Daniel ask about changing my healthcare proxy? Her face did something complicated. Yes, she said after a beat. He did. I told him it wasn't possible, and I documented the conversation in your chart. Documented? I asked. My nurse brain kicked back on through the haze. In your medical record, she said. We document when families ask about big decisions. It's standard. A cold, focused anger slid into place inside me. If it was written down, it wasn't just my word against his. Thank you, I whispered. Later that day, Lily came back with my phone. He really didn't want to give it up, she said, rolling her eyes. Said he was managing your messages. I unlocked it, or tried to, new passcode. He changed it, I said. Lily's mouth tightened. What was your old one? I told her. We tried a few variations. No luck. He said you told him to change it, she said flatly. Said you wanted a fresh start and gave him the new one, but he forgot. Does that sound like me? I asked. She held my gaze. No, she said. It sounds like him. We got the rehab IT guy to help reset it using my email and backup questions. When I finally got in, my notifications blew up. Hundreds of unread texts and voicemails, group chats, Facebook messages, and at the top of everything, a DM thread from my best friend, Maya, the last one, sent a week earlier. If you ever see this, something is wrong with Daniel. Call me when you can, please. I opened the thread and started scrolling. 3 days after the accident. I heard from one of the nurses you're in ICU. I'm coming by. Daniel said it's family only, but I don't care. A few days later, I went anyway. They wouldn't let me in, but I saw him in the cafeteria. He wasn't, I don't know, he didn't look like a guy whose wife might die. He was flirting with the cashier. Then, I saw him at the Copper Tap last night. He wasn't alone. He was in a corner booth with some brunette. He had his hand on her thigh, I confronted him outside. He said you were basically gone. Said the doctors told him there was no brain activity and that I was being judgmental. Another, days later, he said you wouldn't want him to be miserable, that it was just a matter of time. Something's off. I'm so mad I could scream. My hands shook. I showed every message to Lily. She read them, her face going from pale to red. We're going to need a lawyer, she said quietly. I thought she was jumping ahead. At that point, I hadn't even said the word divorce out loud, but deep down, I knew she was right. That night, when the rehab floor was quiet and my roommate was asleep, I called Maya. She picked up halfway through the first ring. Emma? She gasped. Oh my God, you're talking. Barely, I croaked. But yeah. She burst into tears, then into anger. I've been losing my mind. He blocked my number the day after I saw him at the bar. Told people I was making drama. Tell me everything, I said. She told me about the bar, the brunette, the way he'd said it's just a matter of time, with this weird, almost relieved look on his face. How he'd mentioned money, insurance, how he'd told another friend at work that at least they'd be financially okay. Then she said, my cousin works in claims at your insurance company. She told me off the record that Daniel called 2 days after your accident to check on the timeline for your life insurance payout. 2 days? I whispered. My voice cracked. Yeah, Maya said. She thought it was weird, but people panic. Then she saw the news article about you waking up, and she was like, oh, hell no. She's willing to talk to a lawyer if you need. Maya said she knew a good family and medical lawyer, a woman named Eva who'd handled a mess with her uncle's estate. She's scary in the best way, Maya said. You want her on your side. 2 days later, I had my first video call with Eva. I was propped up in bed, hospital gown, battered face. She looked me straight in the eye through the screen. "I'm glad you're alive," she said first. "Now let's make sure you don't get destroyed a second time." I told her everything. The conversations I'd half heard. The way Daniel had tried to change my proxy. The missing money. The changed passcode. The bar. The posts. "Posts?" she said sharply. "On Facebook," I said. "I haven't even looked yet." "Open it," she said. I logged into Facebook and went to Daniel's page. The most recent post was a photo of us on our wedding day. His caption, "Please pray for my sweet Emma. The doctors say she won't make it, but I'm still believing for a miracle. I don't know how I'll live without her." My heart. "Don't give up on us." Hundreds of comments. "You're so strong, Dan." "She's lucky to have you." My stomach flipped. "Scroll back," Eva said. Every couple of days, he'd posted an update. Each one made my condition sound worse than it actually was. "They say she's basically gone." "She doesn't respond to anything." "They're asking if I'm ready to let her go." He never once mentioned that my directive said to fight for me. He never once mentioned Lily. It was all me and Emma against the world while I lay there, my name on forms he was trying to bypass. "Screenshot everything," Eva said. "Send it to an email he doesn't know exists. And we're going to pull your medical records to compare what he told people to what the doctors actually said." We set up a secure email. I started saving everything. Then we opened my banking app, or tried to. I couldn't get in. The 2-factor code was going to Daniel's phone. Another thing he'd helpfully changed. "Call the bank," Eva said, "on speaker." We did. After security questions and holds, a bank rep confirmed that several large transfers had gone out of our joint savings account while I was in ICU, all initiated by Daniel. "What were they labeled as?" I asked. "Just internal transfers to another account," the rep said. "Not bill pay," Eva jumped in. "Can you tell us whose name that other account is in?" "I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't share that over the phone." "That's okay," Eva said smoothly. "We'll subpoena it if needed." When I hung up, Eva said, "Here's the plan, Emma. It's not going to be fast, and it's not going to be pretty, but it will be legal. We gather everything. We don't confront him yet. We let him keep talking. Guys like this always talk too much." "Talk how?" I asked. "On texts, on social media, and especially to the woman he thinks is too in love with him to ever turn on him," she said. "The other one." As if the universe was listening, that other one showed up at my door 2 weeks later. By then, I was home. Daniel had made this big show about turning our downstairs study into a hospital-style bedroom for me. Bed rails, shower chair, the whole thing. To outsiders, he looked like this incredibly devoted husband, but the little details gave him away. A mug on the counter with lipstick that wasn't my shade. A hair tie on the couch with long, dark hair tangled in it. Women's sneakers by the back door that definitely weren't my size. A second toothbrush upstairs. Lily noticed too. "Where's the tenant?" she asked him one night, voice casual. "She moved out," he said quickly. "Didn't work out." We let it go, out loud. Inside, I added it to the growing list. I started recording conversations on my phone. In Texas, only one person has to know they're recording. That one person was me. "Babe, I feel so guilty," he told me one night while he was reheating soup. I had my phone next to me on the bed, recording. "I really thought you weren't coming back. The way the doctors talked, they made it sound like it was hopeless." "That's not how Dr. Patel remembers it," I said softly. He blinked. "Well, maybe that's how it felt to me." "I heard you," I said, "in ICU, asking about not dragging things out." His face went pale, then red. "You were on drugs, Emma. You don't know what you heard." I just smiled weakly and coughed. "Maybe not." He relaxed a little. He always underestimated me. He thought I was soft, loyal, a little naive. He wasn't completely wrong about the loyal part. I'd been loyal. But there's a fine line between loyal and blind. I wasn't blind anymore. Then he came up with his masterpiece of manipulation, a fundraiser. He bounced into my room one afternoon practically glowing. "Great news," he said. "My company and the hospital are going to do this charity event for you. a fundraiser to help with your medical bills and rehab. They want us to share our story. It'll be live streamed. Local news might even cover it. He looked so proud of himself, like he'd just invented kindness. We have insurance, I pointed out. Yeah, but there are still costs, he said quickly. We could use it for house renovations, extra care, plus people want to help. It's inspiring. Inspiring, that word tasted bitter. But something in my chest flared. This was his stage, his moment. He wanted to stand up in front of the whole town and talk about what a hero he'd been. Okay, I said. Let's do it. The week before the event, the doorbell rang on a Tuesday afternoon. Lily answered while I was practicing walking with my cane. Hi, I'm looking for Daniel, a woman said. Her accent was local, her voice nervous. He's not here, Lily said flatly. Who are you? I'm a friend, the woman said. From work? Right, Lily said. The tenant kind of friend? There was a pause. I shuffled into view, gripping my cane. The woman on the porch froze when she saw me. She was pretty, dark hair, office clothes, expensive bag. Her eyes went wide. You're, she whispered. You're Emma. Yes, I said, very much alive. She swallowed hard. He told me there was no real chance. He said you'd want him to move on. He said you'd been separated before the accident. I'm Jenna. The name hit me. Not Nurse Jenna. Different Jenna. I knew that voice from the ICU phone calls. Come in, I said. My voice was calm, even though my heart was hammering. If you're brave enough to knock on my door, you can be brave enough to tell me the truth. She stepped inside, shaking. We sat in the living room, the three of us. I didn't know at first, Jenna said, words tumbling out. He told me your marriage was basically over. He said you were waiting to sell the house and file. Then the accident happened. He said it was awful timing. I almost laughed at that. Awful timing. He showed me his posts, she went on, voice breaking. He said he was devastated. But then he'd text me like... She fumbled for her phone, hands trembling. Like this. She handed me her phone. I scrolled. I don't know how much more of this I can take, Daniel had written to her just days after my accident. They say she's not really there. It's just a matter of time. Another. Once this is over, we can sell the house, pay off the cards, and start fresh. I checked the policy. We'll be okay. I promise. My vision blurred. I took screenshots and emailed them to myself. I found out you'd woken up from a news article, Jenna said quietly. He downplayed it. Said you were back in a bed but not really there. I didn't believe him. So I came here. If you hate me, I get it. But I couldn't keep going without telling you. I don't hate you, I said slowly. He lied to both of us. That doesn't erase what you did, but it does explain it. She cried harder. He told me he had to move money because the hospital bills were killing him, she said. He made it sound like he was drowning, like you'd be okay with it. Lily snorted. He moved money into an account you're on, didn't he? Jenna nodded miserably. Yeah, he said it was our future. After she left, Lily looked at me. You still going to do it? She asked. Do what? Blow him up at his own fundraiser. I took a deep breath. I could picture it clearly. The lights, the podium, Daniel's fake tears. Yeah, I said. I am. The day of the fundraiser, the hospital auditorium was packed. Co-workers, neighbors, his colleagues, old school friends, they all showed up. Cameras from his company, a local news crew, a projector screen behind the stage playing a slideshow of photos of me hiking, me at work in scrubs, me asleep on the couch with our old dog. He ate it up, he hugged people, shook hands, accepted sympathy like it was his birthright. This is going to be so good for you, he whispered to me before it started. People will see how strong you are. We'll get some help with the bills. Win-win. The hospital administrator spoke first, saying kind things about me as a nurse. Then the MC said, now we'll hear from Emma's husband, Daniel, about their journey. He walked up to that microphone like he was walking on air. He did the whole thing, voice shaking, pauses at all the right spots, talking about begging God not to take his wife. He said he never left my bedside. He said he fought for me when the doctors suggested giving up. I watched the faces in the crowd. Half of them were swallowing his story whole, tears in their eyes. The other half, mostly my coworkers, had these faint frowns like something didn't sit right. When he finished, the room gave him a standing ovation. People shouted, "We love you, Dan." He wiped at his eyes, then turned to me. "And now," he said, "the bravest woman I know, my miracle, Emma." Lily helped me to the stage. I moved slow, my cane clicking on the steps, the effort making my ribs ache. The room went quiet. "Hi," I said into the mic. My voice sounded small at first. I don't love public speaking, so bear with me. A few people chuckled. "I want to say thank you," I went on, "to the nurses and doctors who fought for me, to my sister who refused to believe I was gone, to my friends who kept talking to me like I could hear them, even when I couldn't respond." I took a breath, looked at Daniel, sitting in the front row, beaming like a man watching his investment double. "And I want to tell you a story," I said, "since we're all here to hear it." The air shifted. You can feel it when a room leans in. "It starts with me on a ventilator," I said. "I couldn't open my eyes, I couldn't move, but I could hear." I told them how I'd heard Daniel ask about not dragging things out, how he'd tried to change my healthcare proxy from Lily to himself, how Nurse Jenna had refused and documented it. Right on cue, the projector behind me lit up. Maya, at the laptop, put up a scan of the note from my medical record. The words, "requested change of healthcare proxy," "concern about dragging things out," and "patient's stated wishes to continue life support if reasonable chance of recovery exists," were big enough for the back row to read. Murmurs spread. My coworkers stared. The hospital admin's face went white. "I thought maybe he was just scared," I said. "People say strange things when they think they're losing someone." But then I woke up, and I saw my phone. I talked about the changed passcode, the missing money, how he'd told people I was basically brain dead while my doctors documented that my pupils were reactive, and I was responding to pain. We put his Facebook posts on the screen, the dramatic captions, the comments about me being gone. And then, I said, my voice steady, I found out he'd moved thousands of dollars out of our joint account while I was in ICU, not to pay bills, to another account. Another slide. The bank statement, my savings nosediving while I lay unconscious. I could feel Daniel's stare burning a hole through the back of my head. I might have tried to tell myself there was an innocent explanation, I said, until the woman he was seeing behind my back showed up at my door. A few people actually gasped out loud. "She came to me shaking and crying," I said. "She told me he'd said we were separated, that I wouldn't wake up, that we'd basically already said goodbye. He told her that once this was over and my life insurance paid out, they'd sell the house and start fresh." The next slide went up, the screenshot from his message to Jenna, the one where he wrote, "They say there's no real chance. It's just a matter of time. Once this is over, we can sell the house, pay off everything, and start fresh. I've checked the policy. We'll be okay." The room exploded with whispers. Someone said way too loudly, "Oh my God." Daniel jumped to his feet. "This is private," he yelled, his voice cracked. "You're twisting everything. You're traumatized, Emma. You don't remember right." I turned to look at him. For the first time, I saw how scared he really was. Not sorry, not heartbroken, scared. "The thing about trauma," I said into the mic, still watching him, "is it makes you pay attention, it makes you remember, and I'm not the only one who remembers." Dr. Patel stood up from his seat. "We never told you there was no real chance, Mr. Carter," he said, voice clear. "We told you it was serious, but that she was young, and we saw promising signs. That's in the chart." The head ICU nurse stood up too. "And I remember you asking more than once about how long we'd keep this up, if she didn't improve," she said. "We have policies for that kind of conversation. We followed them. You didn't like our answers." Maya stepped to a mic at the side of the room. "And I remember seeing you at the copper tap with another woman 2 weeks after the accident," she said. You told me I was judging your process when I called you out. Silence fell, heavy and complete. I'm not telling you this because I enjoy it, I said. My voice wobbled for the first time. I loved this man. I planned a whole life with him. I almost died still believing he wanted me alive. I swallowed hard. But while I was fighting for every breath, he was moving money, lining up our house and my insurance as his safety net, telling another woman it was just a matter of time, and standing over my bed asking how fast they could let me go. I took a shaky breath and straightened as much as my battered body would allow. So here's what happens next, I said. After this event, I am filing for divorce. The paperwork is already started. I am requesting full financial review of every account, every transfer, every loan application made while I was incapacitated. I am removing him from every medical form. From now on, he gets no say in my care, my money, or my life. I looked directly into the nearest camera. If you donated today, thank you. Your help will go directly to my rehab and my recovery and will be controlled by me and my legal team, not by him. The hospital director nodded firmly from the front row. And if you take one thing from my story, I added, my voice quiet but clear, let it be this. Put your wishes in writing. Tell the people you trust what you want if something happens to you, and make sure that list is short and solid, because sometimes the person standing at your bedside, holding your hand, is not the person who should be making decisions for you. I stepped back from the mic. My legs shook. Lily was there in a heartbeat. As we turned to leave the stage, Daniel stormed up the aisle. Security moved toward him automatically. Emma, he hissed, low enough that only a few of us heard. You're destroying me. We can fix this. Tell them you're confused. Tell them they're misinterpreting. I looked him in the eyes one last time. You left me for dead, I said quietly. I just came back and told people what you did. Security guided him toward the exit as he yelled about misunderstandings, about context, about how much he loved me. No one clapped for him this time. The aftermath wasn't movie clean. It was messy and slow. Lawyers, court dates, statements, nights where I lay awake in the house I'd fought to keep, wondering how I'd missed the cracks in the man I married. Eva did what she said she would. She froze remaining joint assets, challenged the transfers, flagged the attempted loan he'd tried to open in my name while I was in ICU. The bank's fraud department got involved. That did not look good for him in court. His job let him go quietly. Not because divorce is a crime, but because using a company-backed charity event to market himself as a grieving hero while hiding a financial and moral mess was bad PR. The HR person called it a breach of trust. Our divorce dragged for months, but the outcome was clear from early on. The judge looked at the evidence, the messages, the bank records, the medical notes, the timeline, and made it clear she did not see him as some tragic, overwhelmed husband who'd made a few mistakes. I kept the house. He was ordered to repay what he'd siphoned out of our savings through wage garnishment once he found steady work. He got no access to my accident settlement. He left the courtroom that day with a box of documents and a face full of rage and shame. He texted me a few times after that. Long paragraphs about how I'd embarrassed him, how I was ungrateful for all he'd done, how we could have handled it privately. I didn't answer, not once. That silence was its own kind of revenge. Months later, when I could walk a mile without a cane and go up the stairs without needing a break, I saw him across a parking lot. He was thinner, older around the eyes. He saw me too. For a second, our eyes met. He looked away first. Did exposing him publicly fix everything? No. I still flinch sometimes when I drive through intersections. I still wake up certain I can't move, tubes in my throat, listening to someone I love sell my life for sympathy. But knowing that everyone he lied to knows the truth, that he can't stroll into a room and play the grieving hero anymore, that matters. My revenge wasn't screaming or smashing his car or some dramatic midnight scene. It was steady and patient. It was screenshots and recordings and legal filings. It was the quiet decision to walk onto a stage he built for himself and turn every light in the house on. He left me as gone in that ICU room. He started building a life on the assumption I would never wake up to check his math. But I did wake up, I listened, I learned, I planned. And when I finally stood in front of everyone and told the truth, watching his face fall as his own words appeared behind me on a 10-foot screen, I realized something. He hadn't just underestimated me, he'd forgotten who I was. I'm an ICU nurse. I don't quit on people just because the odds aren't perfect, and I wasn't about to quit on myself. He tried to erase me while I was still breathing, so I came back, I took back my story, and I exposed him publicly, with nothing but the truth.